I'm going to start with furring out the bathroom wall. So as I've previously explained, I built this wall in 2x4s, and I was not sure yet on whether this wall would be the wet wall or just the external wall would be the wet wall. Turns out, because we're going to put a washer dryer in here and a sink right here, this will be a wet wall, so there needs to be plumbing in there, and it will be easier to build a 2x6 wall instead of this. Now I could rip out this whole wall and put new 2x6s in instead, but it's a lot easier to use just some furring strips like these. We ripped these down from boards that were cracked and we rejected during the framing phase, and they're 2-inch, so they make my 3.5-inch or 2x4 into a 5.5-inch or a 2x6. And I'm just going to install this with screws against it. Because this is not a structural wall, it's no problem that I solve it like that, and that will make everything go smooth from here on. One thing that I learned after I built the cabin was that when you're working with an internal wall like this, butting up against an external wall, which will need to be insulated and will require a vapor barrier, it's always handy that when you install the internal wall to put some vapor barrier right between your external and internal wall and the framing phase. Of course, I only learned that afterwards, but since I'm doing the strapping now, I'm going to apply a piece of vapor barrier right here, which will allow us to continue the vapor barrier from the bathroom into the hallway. And now I just continue putting the furring straps on. The next project I'm going to tackle in our cabin build is build the interior wall to our bedroom that holds the door. Right here between the structural wall, the ceiling, and our 4-foot pony wall. I'm going to build this wall not on the deck and raise it, but instead build it in place, stud by stud. That way I can measure exactly the length of the stud. Keep in mind that the angle at the top here is important, and install it exactly where I want it installed. So that's what I'm going to do today. So next I'm going to create my bottom plate that also has the layout for my studs. I've already done the calculations on what positions I want the studs based on the door layout. And yeah, so it's just a matter of drawing that on the plate and installing it. Okay, so quick recap of what I've done so far. I have installed the bottom plate, put up my layout on it, and then because I don't have a piece of lumber that is long enough to span this diagonal, but it's not a structural wall, it's just a little interior wall, I solved it by installing a stud here and a stud here together with some vapor barrier, which will make it easier to make this exterior wall fully proofed with the vapor barrier. And because I put these two studs in place, I have shortened my diagonal to just what about my 8-foot lumber allows for. So that's what I'm going to do now. Cut my top plate at the right angle, install it in here, screw it to the rafter that runs right here, and then I can continue with putting my studs in place. So I'm now using the laser level that I put on the layout of my bottom plate, and I transpose the layout to my top plate, and that allows me to take exact measurements and to place the studs in the right locations.
63 times 2. Oops. Oh yes. What else how you do that?
Because I'm working with the angles of the diagonal, for me it helps if I really draw out on the lumber how my angle needs to run. That way I don't make mistakes in cutting. That should work out to level. Sorry, that was plumb before, not level. Don't hate me. And that's that.
Is it finished?
Interior wall is finished.
Someone's enjoying their lunch. This is not Jane. We're befriending different deer. What you having? Hello, not Jane.